Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and welcome to Monday's show. A test screening isn't a preview. It isn't a carnival. It isn't a celebration. A test screening is for people to go to tell a studio what they think, their honest opinions about the movie they're showing them. It's a collection of data. There's a misunderstanding I think the fanboy has when they hear about test screenings. And I've had a lot of flack from people saying, you see, Flash movie test screening, it must be all good, right? Still happening. No. A test screening is a collection of data. Did you know the Flash movie has had the most test screenings in DCEU history? Do you think it's A, because they're happy with the movie and they're sending it out there as a celebration, or because this film is a clusterfuck and they don't know what to do with it? As I say, a test screening is a collection of data. So they're doing this because they know there has to be extensive reshoots. David Zaslav wants extensive reshoots. I'm sure Alan Horn has told him to collect more data. That's why there's yet another test screening. And a couple of leaks have come onto the internet. Now, I'm not going to confirm or deny these leaks because, as you know, I have been present in one of these test screenings of the Flash movie myself. So the very first is a flashback from Man of Steel, which reveals the Flash was there during the Black Zero event, the Battle of Metropolis, helping out. Now, he doesn't meet Superman because that wouldn't make no sense, but he's there. So, again, I'm not going to confirm or deny this. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? I think for fans, this will be a very exciting thing to know that the Flash was there helping out. It's a little bit of a cameo. Problem is, it's not in the actual Man of Steel movie, but pretty exciting because it's like Ben Affleck's kind of perspective of the Black Zero event, the Battle of Metropolis. You don't see that in Man of Steel, but you see it in BVS. It's okay. Some Snyder fans are upset about it. I'm saying it's okay. It's a bit of an exciting leak. But yes, again, there's another leak I'm not going to confirm or deny because I can't. Because I'm under an NDA, right? So I can't do that. But there's another blurred out face for Superman. He turns up for a few short seconds and you can't see his face. Just like you couldn't see his face in Shazam and in James Gunn's Peacemaker finale. Of course, this is simply not good enough to tell us, basically telling us we don't know who's going to play Superman, so we're not going to give you a Superman in this movie. We're just going to give you a few seconds of a blurted out face. There's so many different things they could have done here with Superman. I've said it before. If it's an impossibility for you and Cavill to work together, you recast, right? You give us a Flashpoint Superman, then he turns up in the new timeline after Flashpoint. It's easy. But no, they decided not to do this, but just tease a blurred out Superman face at the end. Again, simply not good enough. And this is why, of course, that this film was delayed. I mean, what do you think about these leaks? Again, I'm not going to confirm or deny them to you, but, you know, what do you think of them? Are you excited that the Flash was in Man of Steel? And what do you think of Superman being there, but not being there? You know, you had an opportunity here. This movie was going to be the huge reboot relaunch for the DCEU. They made Christopher Reeve's Superman canon. You know, that's another leak I won't confirm or deny. We've spoken about this before. Christopher Reeve's Superman shows up for a short while, as does Michael Keaton's Batman. Obviously, he's already in the film anyway, and Linda Carter's Wonder Woman shows up. Obviously, this is a quick couple of CGI cameos. Again, there's no issue with that because this was supposed to be the multiverse strategy. But all you had to do was recast Superman if you can't work with Henry Cavill. And I mean, I'm just giving them an option here. But doing this is absolutely terrible. And this really goes to the 4 years of mismanagement under Toby Emmerich that has come to an end today. He's no longer the chairman of Warner Brothers Pictures Group. It's been 4 years of creative bankruptcy, terrible decisions. Of course, the terrible decisions within the launch of the DCEU have been there before he turned up. He just made things a lot worse. It was under his stewardship that we got Justice League and the denial of the Snyder Cut and the removal of Zack Snyder. It's been absolutely terrible. Let me give you a little comparison. Have you noticed how the Disney company has gone downhill around the past, the past couple of years? Have you noticed how bad the Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 4 was? Did you notice how Endgame wasn't as good as the Shields said it was? This coincides with Alan Horn and Bob Iger leaving the Walt Disney Company. Their loss is Warner Brothers and DC's gain, as Alan Horn is now an interim period advisor for business manager David Zaslav. So as I say, our gain is their loss, because since Horn's left the Walt Disney Company and Bob Iger, it's gone downhill. But just imagine how badly Toby Emmerich has mismanaged this situation, that the owner, the CEO of the company that owns Warner Brothers Pictures, John Stankey, had to go to a business manager in David Zaslav, who is the CEO of Discovery. He's made that company so successful, so they come to an agreement for a merger. But basically, let's call it what it has always been. It was a buyout. David Zaslav and Discovery bought the Warner Brothers company, bought Warner Media. John Stankey had to go to him because of the mess. They weren't making the money because Stankey and AT&T had no idea how to run a studio, but neither does David Zaslav. But the difference is David Zaslav is intelligent. He held his arms up. Not like Stankey, who kind of just sat there and brought people, more incompetent people, to kind of, underline the incompetence of Toby Emmerich. But, David Zaslav said, listen, I've got no experience here. So he goes to Alan Horn, a titan of the industry. And as I said, the Walt Disney Company has gone downhill ever since he and Bob Iger has left. So today is the beginning of a new era at Warner Brothers Pictures. The end of the mismanagement. Toby Emmerich is out. It's been a battle from us, the fans, to get him out. It's been a battle from Warner Media to get him out by doing this merger stroke buyout from Warner Brothers Discovery. We have a new company. We have new leadership. Do you remember last year or the year before when there were rumours that Toby Emmerich, before we knew he was leaving Warner Brothers Pictures as the chairman, that he went cap in hand to Netflix for a job, and after they finished laughing, they said, on your bike, mate. And Sarnoff, who was the chief chair of Warner Media, Warner Brothers Pictures at the time, denied it and said, we are very happy with Toby. Who says that after the mismanagement? Let me explain to you the level of mismanagement from Toby Emmerich. They haven't made any real money. They haven't been competitive in the industry. He is incompetent, and it's always somebody else's fault but his. It's always somebody else that had to lose their job. So interesting times. Today is the first day at Warner Brothers Pictures of co-chairs of the Warner Brothers Pictures Group, Pamela Adby, I hope I got the name right, Adby I think, Pamela Adby and Mike DeLuca, and Alan Horn as an advisor. Now let me translate to you what's actually going on here. Unofficially, Alan Horn is the CEO of the Warner Brothers Pictures Group in the interim period. What does interim mean? A temporary period. We've spoken about this before, but I want to get it clear to you fanboys, because you don't really understand. You translate everything the way you want it to be. That's not what I do. I want to talk facts. So basically, Alan Horn, 79-year-old former, motion picture titan, Alan Horn is now the unofficial CEO of Warner Brothers Pictures Group in a temporary period while Pamela Adby and Mike DeLuca get their feet under the table, and they're going to learn from him. So he's in charge. He's making all the decisions unofficially. You're asking me, Mick, why didn't they just make him the full-time CEO? He's 79 years old. He explained in that interview with the Hollywood Reporter he hasn't had COVID yet. He don't want to get COVID. He don't want to leave his home. But we have technology these days. He can communicate with Zaslav, with Pamela Adby and Mike DeLuca. Basically, he's in charge. for the temporary interim period, which could be a couple of years. What does this mean? Is this a good thing, a bad thing? This is a brilliant thing. I'm actually sick and tired of hearing people saying, WB have done this, they're never going to get it right. They will now. They will get things right now because they've got a top man in the position. So, what is the future of the DCEU? Isn't it ironic? The final movie under the stewardship of Toby Emmerich and Walter Hamada in terms of DC Leagues of Super Pets, let's say that again, DC League of Super Pets, get it right, is a flop. 23 million over the weekend. That's worse than Lightyear, which was deemed a flop as well. These people don't think about anything. This is a really cute, good, animated movie. But you were never going to get people, families in their droves, to watch this. There was a lot of things, because the Rock's production company is involved in this. But how comes The Rock is involved in DC? Because of Toby Emmerich, because of Walter Hamada, right? I'm not saying that The Rock is a bad person. I'm not saying that he's incompetent. But think about it. There were so many better things to do with DC animation in movie theaters this summer. What they could have done was they could have had a Black Adam and Shazam animated crossover, right? It could have been an Elseworld thing. They could have called it Shazam, Black Adam, Elseworlds. And you could have had Zachary Levi voicing Shazam, and you could have had The Rock voicing Black Adam in an animated movie. People would have went there. It could have been like a kind of prequel to the Black Adam and Shazam Fury of the God movies. That's what they could have done. They've got no brains. They've got no business acumen. The Rock hasn't, Emmerich hasn't, and neither has Hamada. But what's going on with Hamada? No one's mentioned him. He hasn't officially been removed. Kind of worrying if he's still there. But he's officially still, at this moment in time, the DC film president. That cannot remain. I don't expect Alan Horn, an intelligent man like Alan Horn, to leave him here. So from today onwards, this is where the business of fixing Warner Brothers Pictures, the motion picture company, and it needs fixing. Make no mistake, whatever successes of theirs you throw at me, I can give you facts. The Batman. Toby Emmerich wanted Matt Reeves to direct Ben Affleck's The Batman movie. Matt Reeves says, I'm not going to destroy and interfere with another vision. I want to do my own Batman movie. Either you allow me to do that, nothing to do with what Ben's doing here. I don't want to hurt Ben. I don't want to mess around with his art. If you let me do my own thing, I'll stay. So he walks off, and do you remember when it came out that, talks broke down with Matt? This is what happened. So just imagine if Matt Reeves directed Ben Affleck in that Batman movie, what would have happened? Ben and Matt would have had creative differences. It would have either been a terrible movie, or Ben and probably Matt would have both walked in the end, not being friends any longer. Matt's not that type of guy. These are the situations that this man, Emmerich, integrated. An absolute clusterfuck. And what DC League of Super Pets shows you is the level of incompetence in the stewardship of Toby Emmerich. So this is a big, big kind of disappointment for The Rock. The Rock wants Black Adam spin-offs. He really wants to run his section of DC live action. That simply isn't going to happen. Whether the Batgirl movie happens and the Flash movie happen or not. These are movies going through the motions. These are films that have just been released because they've been made. And there will be a plan from Alan Horn. He will implement a new leader of DC Studios, which isn't an official company right now, but this is what they're going to do. We've known this for some time. Variety have told us, Variety are very reliable, Deadline. The big publications have told us what David Zaslav thought of Toby Emmerich and DC live action. We heard it. We heard it from the source's mouth. You may have had a couple of hits, but you don't have the consumer confidence or loyalty. I've repeatedly said this to your boredom, and I'm sorry, but it needs to be hammered home to you fellow nerds. What is going on here? Change is coming. No matter how many times you tell me, "Oi Mick, flash test screening," it is irrelevant. It is not a celebration. It's a collection of data. And that is it. And again, you should be very, very suspicious that news of yet another Flash movie test screening was announced just after Batfleck was confirmed to cameo in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Toby Emmerich scared of losing his bonus again. What they have to do now is get rid of all the Toby Emmerich loyalists at WB Pictures. This has to be a reset, and this is a reset. Where does this leave the Restore the Snyderverse movement? Well, look, the fans are doing great. They're doing the hashtag. They're doing something, I think, today for the official kind of new beginning of the new leadership of WB Pictures. Very exciting. Nobody really knows if Alan Horn would restore the Snyderverse. We know, right? There's two things I want to say, right? One, we know that Alan Horn brought Zack Snyder to WB Pictures and greenlit 300. That doesn't mean he's going to restore the Snyderverse, but it's a positive thing to look at. Now, we all got excited when Batfleck was announced for that cameo, but that doesn't mean the Snyderverse is going to be restored. But again, it's a chink of light at the end of the tunnel. And then the following day, we saw Zack Snyder in Bruce Wayne's car. So these things add up. Snyder isn't giving up. This is what's so amazing about the situation. His fans are not giving up, and people keep on telling me to move on. I think it's the Hamadaverse fans who really need to move on, because the dots are starting to link together. So is it possible for the Snyderverse to be restored? Yes, because you've got these fans here that are willing to spend money. And money is the name of the game. Money, real money, is something that Warner Brothers haven't had. You've got a rabid fan base that's willing to do anything for a director, who's willing, they're willing to give to the charity that he supports. They're willing to fly banners across the air. They give you publicity you can't buy. They're ready to support. Everyone made a lot about the voting for the Oscar awards. The Snyder Cut won 2, right? And did he win one for the zombie one as well, right? Not too sure, but he did well. Bots or not, those fans went to the effort, one way or the other, to make sure that Snyder won those fan awards. That shows you what kind of fan base this is. But you see, you don't need any hashtags for David Zaslav to know why it's a good idea to restore the Snyderverse. It's all in the streaming numbers for the Snyder Cut, the physical numbers, the digital numbers worldwide, recently being released in the US digitally. Did very, very well again, made Emmerich so nervous, he spread that lie about Cavill coming to San Diego Comic-Con a couple of weeks ago. So, yes, there's a really, really good chance of the Snyderverse being restored by Alan Horn and David Zaslav, but it's not a given. It's not a foregone conclusion, but it's there. By restoring the Snyderverse, you create noise and a distraction, while you can rebuild a brand new DC live-action universe. This is a good idea. It is my opinion the current DCEU has nothing. It is not fit for purpose. They will already know how much Black Adam approximately will make. They will already know that what Shazam Fury of the Gods will make. They have box office projections, and they're going to know that they will have some kind of success with these movies, but not enough for them to continue them. They've probably already decided in whatever they're going to do. So I don't believe the DCEU is fit for purpose. I do believe the DCEU will be ended, finished, kaput, and they will start again. But we're just going to have to see what they decide. The question right now is, what happens to Batgirl and what happens to the Flash movie? So let's give you the details about this opening weekend box office for DC Super Pets. Opening weekend box office is lower than Lightyear, so it's that bad. DC League of Super Pets managed to take the #1 spot at the box office but came in below the underperforming Lightyear's opening weekend by Richard Think of Screen Rant. DC Leagues of Super Pets opened at 1 at the box office in its first weekend but came in on the below Lightyear. DC League of Super Pets features Dwayne Johnson as Krypto, Kevin Hart as Ace the Bat-Hound in an animated family comedy focusing on the various super pets of the DC heroes. While originally set to open in theatres on May 20th, 2022, the film's release was postponed to July 29th, 2022 to take the slot of the other DC superhero film of Johnson's Black Adam when it was delayed. Not a good idea, probably would have done slightly better in May, but not much. Releasing DC League of Super Pets as a hot big summer movie was seen as a risk since family film hadn't shown to be big earners at the box office during the COVID-19 pandemic. To be clear, they can't use this pandemic bullshit because pretty much everything is open and back to normal. They just use the pandemic as an excuse. Even as recently as March 2022, Disney opted to send the Pixar film Turning Red to Disney Plus as opposed to theatres. However, the release of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 seemed to indicate family audiences were willing to turn out for the right movie. Exactly, the right movie. There's no pandemic excuses that can be accepted. And Minions: The Rise of Gru broke expectations. Yeah, your expectations because you're Disney shills. By becoming the biggest 4th of July opening weekend movie of all time. One film that sadly could not connect with audiences was Lightyear, that's not sad, which was the first Pixar film to get a theatrical release in over 2 years and has been a box office disappointment, opening well below expectations on its opening weekend. Not just that, we had Tom Hanks criticising Disney for not bringing back Tim Allen as the Lightyear character, and I agree with this. It's ridiculous. This wouldn't have happened under Alan Horn and Bob Iger, for sure. The box office results are in, and it appears DC League of Super Pets came in below Lightyear's opening weekend. According to Variety, DC League of Super Pets grossed $23 million in its opening weekend, taking the 1 spot at the box office, but coming in below the opening weekend of Lightyear, $51 million. I mean, look, it was never going to gross anything like $51 million. And Minions: The Rise of Gru, $107 million. Forget about it, never going to happen. It did open on par with other animated films like The Bad Guys. It's a DC piece of animation they spent a lot of money on, $107 million. It did open on par with other animated films like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And it nearly quadrupled the opening weekend of the recently released Paws of Fury, Legend of Hank, $6.3 million. Doesn't matter. This is a DC animated movie, and they would have had higher projections for this movie. But I could have told Toby Emmerich that people weren't going to come out for a DC League of Super Pets movie, no matter whose voices were going to be on the other end of those animals. DC League of Super Pets might have opened below Lightyear, but it is important to consider it had a smaller budget of $90 million. Right, so they didn't spend a lot of money on it, compared to Lightyear's reported $200 million budget. While the opening weekend for DC League of Super Pets may not be spectacular, it does have the benefit of no major family film opening in August and could hold at the box office. It's not going to hold at the box office. It's going to drop. It's going to drop dramatically because there's films still out there, better films that are still doing well. Although it still faces heavy competition from Minions: The Rise of Gru, which in its 4th weekend is still in the top 5. Exactly. My point exactly. Warner Brothers' new 45-day theatrical window means that DC League of Super Pets will be arriving on HBO Max in over a month, and again, like James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, it will fare better on there. Family films like Clifford the Big Red Dog, Encanto and Sing 2 have done exceptionally well for their streaming platforms, and it is something Disney is likely hoping for Lightyear when it arrives on Disney Plus on August 3rd, 2022. DC League of Super Pets' story might not end with the opening weekend box office. It will. You see, this is what you get from journalism in entertainment these days. It's the protection of this multi-conglomerate industry, and it really frustrates me. I read this article to underline to you what a failure Toby Emmerich is. This film should never have even been greenlit. We continue with your DC updates. How much the Batman director is involved with Penguin's spin-off show. Colin Farrell has described the scope of the Batman filmmaker Matt Reeves' involvement with his movie spin-off series, The Penguin, by Saeed Fadullah Hosseini of Screen Rant. Colin Farrell explains Matt Reeves' involvement in the Batman spin-off show, The Penguin. Reeves delivered a deliciously grim and noir take on the Caped Crusader story with The Batman, which saw Twilight star Robert Pattinson transform into the titular Bruce Wayne. The movie explored Batman's early career as a vigilante, following him as he uncovered the corruption in Gotham City. While Pattinson proved to be a hit, several of the Batman's other characters, including Zoe Kravitz, Selena Kyle, Catwoman, Paul Dano's Edward Norton, the Riddler, Jeffrey Rice, James Gordon, and Andy Serkis' Alfred Pennyworth, also gained widespread acclaim and recognition. But the actor who stood out the most was Farrell, who's still seen in turn as the Penguin, earned him rave reviews. Quite right too. Rumblings of a spin-off show centered on Farrell's villain had begun even before the Batman hit theaters, but the show wasn't officially announced until HBO Max handed out a series order to the Penguin in March 2022. Set both before and after the events of Reeves' The Batman, the Penguin reportedly charts Oswald Oz Cobblepot's rise to power as Gotham's criminal overlord. The show draws inspiration from classic gangster thrillers like The Long Good Friday and Scarface, and it seemingly explains how Oz the Penguin took advantage of the anarchy in Gotham after Carmine Falcone's John Turturro's death to establish his own crime syndicate. Lauren LaFranc serves as the showrunner on The Penguin, with Reeves, Farrell and Dylan Clark executive producing. Now, in a new interview with ET, Farrell elaborated on the scope of Reeves' involvement in the Penguin spin-off series. As the actor reveals, Reeves won't direct the episode. Reeves won't direct the episodes for the new show, but he remains involved in a prominent creative capacity. Reeves is assisting with the framework and the writing for The Penguin, which is very important. And he also has a say in who will helm the spin-off show. Read what Farrell said below. Look, it's his baby. This is his universe. He's making all the decisions. He's so obsessive about what he does, but he's all over HBO Max's The Penguin series as well. I mean, he's not going to direct it, but he's all over the structure of the scripts and who's going to direct them. And so it's exciting, quite right too. It's one of the few things that's working over at DC Live Action right now. One thing that can be discerned from Reeves' association with The Penguin is that the show is in the early stages of development. Very true. Since Reeves is still helping the showrunner organize the scripts and hire directors, the series probably needs some time before it can complete pre-production and assemble its core creative team. Once that part is done, the EPs may proceed with the casting, getting new and old actors on board to tell Penguin's story. Some reports suggest that The Penguin could begin filming in February 2023, but that cannot be verified until WB and DC offer an official confirmation. The capacity and extent of Reeves' attachment to The Penguin are seemingly proportionate and sensible, since the filmmaker is also working on The Batman too. He's probably too busy to direct all the episodes for the spin-off, and even if he had the time for the job, getting him to helm a comparatively independent story could result in a repetitive cinematic style. And that's what you want. That's what you want, because it's from the same universe. And a lack of originality. Well, I won't go that far. I don't agree with this at all. As long as Reeves oversees the creative process from a relative distance, he's not taking a distance from it, mate. It can be guaranteed that The Penguin honours his Batman franchise and at the same time gets the opportunity to become its own thing and a subversive crime-tinged superhero showcase in its own right. The scope of Reeves' involvement in The Penguin balanced familiarity with novelty, and this equilibrium is exactly what is needed for the show to become a huge success. I'm just wondering, you know, loads of fanboys must read these articles. Can you just keep your words basic? I understand the words, but there's some people that don't. Anyway, very, very interesting. Matt Reeves is all over the development of the Penguins. He's not directing the episodes. He's probably writing them or co-writing them. But this is his vision. This is part of his brand new Gotham Batman universe is very, very exciting, and I can't wait to see. It's one of the things from DC live action that's going really, really well. I love the Batman. I'm not going to say it's my favourite Batman film of all time. I'd be lying, but I really did enjoy Matt's vision. Batgirl's Brendan Fraser reveals new details for his version of Firefly. I'm staggered that these people aren't embarrassed to keep on mentioning this movie when there's not even a release date attached. Anyway, Batgirl star Brendan Fraser has teased some interesting details about his villain Firefly at the GalaxyCon rally, revealing his comics identity by Saif Fadullah Husani of Screen Rant. Brendan Fraser has revealed some intriguing details for his villain Firefly in Batgirl. In 1961, DC introduced Barbara Gordon as a new incarnation of Batgirl, who is the daughter of Gotham City Police Department Commissioner Jim Gordon. The superheroine, protege, and partner of Batman proved quite popular with fans, leading her to appear in a number of live-action projects. Some of the most memorable portrayals of Batgirl are from Alicia Silverstone, That Ain't Memorable, and Yvonne Crave. Although she has been around for a while, rumblings of a solo Batgirl film only began in 2017 when Joss Whedon was hired to direct, produce and write the movie. But he ultimately left the project a year later, prompting WB and DC to rework their plans. By the way, I think Joss Whedon would have made a great Batgirl movie. Maybe better than the one they're making. Just an opinion. He may have issues. His conduct on Justice League was despicable. I admit that. Still a talented guy though. Directed by Adil El Arbi and Bilal Fallah from a screenplay by Christina Hodson, what could possibly go wrong? Are you telling me Hodgson's a better bet than Whedon? Anyway, Batgirl is already in advanced stages of development with filming already wrapped. In the Heights, Leslie Grace is leading the movie with J.K. Simmons reprising his DCEU role as her father, Commissioner Gordon, and Michael Keaton appearing as Bruce Wayne, Batman. Apparently, he's only in this movie for about 15 minutes, which is better than nothing. The villain in Batgirl is Fraser's Firefly, a sociopathic pyromaniac who commits acts of arson across Gotham. Earlier specifics on Fraser's character weren't clear, but now there's an update on his role. User Christy Worley recently shared a video on YouTube showing Brendan Fraser at the GalaxyCon rally in North Carolina as he participates in a Q&A session with fans. During the event, Fraser teased his Batgirl role, revealing the identity of his villain as Ted Carson. The actor explains that Carson is a veteran who has lost his benefits, and this frustration has led him to become an arsonist who is determined to put the entire Gotham City who is determined to put the entire Gotham City on fire. Read what Fraser said below. Ted Carson is the character's name. It's misprinted in the media. I have noticed that. It's a new character. It's a new day. He's quite cross. He's a veteran whose benefits have been cut, so he wants to burn Gotham to the ground, and Batman and Batgirl are there to stop him, or are they? Interesting. Interesting. I think he's trying to be a bit intriguing there, isn't he, Brendan? The comics character Ted Carson was created by Bill Finger and Sheldon Moldoff for Batman 126. He adopts the identity of Firefly after the incendiary Garfield Lynch. However, it seems that the Batgirl movie has changed Firefly's backstory. As in the original strip, Ted Carson was a wealthy gold mine heir who turned to a life of crime out of greed. But Fraser's Firefly costume in Batgirl still seems true to Carson's robotic flying suit. The previous set photos revealed similar black protective gear and a respirator mask. The ensemble also included a jetpack, which Firefly will likely use to cast his fiery wings. Right now, it remains unclear why Batgirl has tweaked Firefly's origins. It could possibly be because the filmmakers want to give the villain a more compelling backstory with pronounced emotional beats and a more believable motive. In the comics, Carson was a menacing threat, but the reasons for his villainy were not convincing enough to many. Of course not, he was already bloody rich. Firefly's updated past makes the villain more complex, adding a greater depth to the plot. It has been reported that Gotham in Batgirl is considerably darker, and the movie looks at it with a critically investigative lens. Ted Carson's new characterization seemingly aligns with the thematic nuances of the film, allowing it the opportunity to address the bigger picture of the corruption in Gotham. That said, the new information about Fraser's Firefly builds up excitement for the movie, indicating that the villain will be one of Batgirl's most interesting aspects. That's all very, very good, my friend, but there's still no release date. A film at this stage in its development should have a release date. They have shot the movie. They don't seem to be interested in any reshoots. Who knows though? They may already have had some. The movie is now in post. It doesn't have a release date. We've spoken about this so many times. It hasn't got a release date because everything in Batgirl is set up in the Flash movie. That's why I can confirm to you that they don't know what to do with the Flash movie. That's why it's having multiple test screenings. They don't even know if they're going to release the fucking movie. If you do hear anytime soon a release date for Batgirl, that means the Flash movie is definitely being released. We've discussed that before. So, yes, Firefly sounds interesting. I like the idea of him being a veteran who's been let down. This is something that happens in our real world. Veterans are not treated very well. You know, they're manipulated to join the army. They're manipulated to go to war. And then when they do the deed, and, you know, no one wants to see them when they come back home. They're denied. You know, the anti-war protesters are against them. The government are against them. They don't want to pay them for their service. They've been injured. They can't do a regular job. It's absolutely disgusting, right? I'm not saying anything kind of, you know, I respect people who are anti-war. You know, I get that stance. I really do. I'm just saying how badly veterans are, you know, treated in today's world. You know, we've all got our points of view, but they're human beings. They should have a level of respect for fighting for their country, shouldn't they? And they should be supported financially by the governments they were defending. So this is going to be very, very, very interesting. But we still have to find out a release date. Because if there's no Flash movie, there's no Batgirl. Make no mistake about it. Now, I've been saying this for months. It doesn't mean definitely there's no Batgirl release and there's no the Flash release. But if everything in the garden was a rosy, the Flash movie would have been released this year and Batgirl would already have a release date. It doesn't. We have new leadership as of today at WB Pictures Group. That means anything is possible. Walter Hamada could be kept in power. Walter Hamada could be sacked. They could go on with his vision and his multiverse strategy. Unlikely they keep him. Unlikely they go forward with his strategy. We wait here with bated breath. When will the new Warner Brothers leadership make their announcements? When will we know what the hell is going on with the current DC live action universe? I don't think we're going to have to wait long to get some very, very exciting news that's going to break the internet. It's going to make some of you happy and some of you very, very angry. Isn't that the great thing about being a fan? Being a DC fan is very explosive, it's very exciting, and I'm here for it. This has been Movies TV Mad. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. I'm not telling you which girlfriends and which wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss the beautiful perfection. And I will see you on Tuesday's show. Until we see each other again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.